On this episode of Left Off the Map, Henry Terry and Dion Kenzie will continue their trek through the northwest coast of Tassie in search of the best produce with the aim of creating a spectacular surf and turf. Then I will cook with some ingredients that are available all year round to make a versatile dish that can be enjoyed simply on its own or taken to the next level. But first, I'm back in the kitchen at Avalon Coastal Retreat, combining on-trend flavours of Peri Peri with local mussels to create a dish that is not only simple, but super tasty. I love Peri Peri chicken and I love mussels, so there's no reason why those two things won't go together and be something that I also love. So mussels cooked in cider or mussels cooked in white wine. This is a recipe that I've done a few times and everyone knows this, everyone's seen it, but I'm gonna add a tablespoon of my own fermented chili Peri Peri sauce, which is this vibrant little thing here. So it's the same process that you would normally go through when making mussels in white wine. So a shallot, which I just want to dice. A couple of cloves of garlic as well. And then just thinly slice those. Then a decent knob of butter into my pan. So that's probably 50 grams of butter. I'll do 25. Pop that in, turn my pan on. Now you need a pot or a pan with a lid for this one, because you need to be able to create steam inside your pot to cook your mussels. So pop in my shallots and my garlic with my butter. I'm going to saute that off for a couple of minutes, just until I soften the shallot and I soften the garlic and I can start to smell shallots and garlic and butter. Then in on top of that, I'm going to put my, I've got some apple cider, put some apple cider in, let that reduce down by about half, and then my mussels will go in. So I've reduced that cider, I can't see. I've reduced the cider down by about half, so my mussels can go in now. I've got about 500 grams of mussels. Pop those in. And then in with those, about a tablespoon of my Peri Peri, my fermented chili. Lid on. Give that a shake. And then while that's cooking away for about a minute, doesn't take too long at all, I'm just going to de-seed and dice a tomato. So top and tail your tomato, then roll it along on its side like that, and dice it. And fresh tomato is going to go in. My fresh herbs will go in. I've got some coriander and some parsley. And a squeeze of lemon juice to help balance the heat in that Peri Peri sauce, or that chili sauce. And we will be ready to go. And turn that off. Lid off. Tomatoes in. Fresh herbs in. Just roughly chopped. About a quarter of a bunch of each. Pop that in. About 60 mils of cream. And that squeeze of lemon. And then the lid's going to go on. I'm going to give it another shake, let it sit for about 30 seconds, and then turn it out. So lid on, give it a good shake. Sit for 30 seconds and then turn it out into a big bowl. Or you could just serve it in that pot if you wanted to. All right, lid off. Let's have a look. They've cooked perfectly, so really plump. Oh. That is beautiful. Oh. Let me get some of that sauce. Oh, yeah. I love mussels. They're so good and they're so cheap. A kilo of mussels, a big bag of mussels is under $10. That's half a kilo, so that's like $4 or $5 worth of mussels, and you get a fantastic meal out of that. That is enough for one big portion for one person, I reckon, with a couple of pieces of sourdough and a beer or a white wine or a cider, and you are in heaven.
The air at Cape Grim on the Cradle Coast's northwest tip is known as the cleanest air in the world. No one knows it better than local legend Mike Buckby, the resident rain farmer at Cape Grim Water. Collecting rainwater that has travelled all the way from Antarctica to the edge of Tasmania, Mike has to wait for the perfect weather conditions to ensure only the purest water is harvested. Henry and Dion are meeting up with Mike to learn about how rainwater helps your palate unlock the true flavours in a glass of wine.
Welcome to the northwest coast of Tasmania.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, thank you very much for having us.
No, well, it's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to tasting a beautiful Cape Grim water today.
Well, we'd love that. Mike, this stuff's pretty clean from what we hear. What makes it so clean, and how do you measure that?
Sure. Well, we're so lucky here because at Cape Grim there's an air monitoring station that's operated by the CSIRO, and we know that that is the cleanest air in the world when the wind comes off the Great Southern Ocean.
Wow.
Yeah. So the nearest landmass is Antarctica. So it's a long way. There's no industry, no pollution. Yeah, we're pretty lucky to have the cleanest air in the world.
Beautiful. And how do you harvest it?
We've got a rain farm, and right in the middle of it, we've got this specialised little facility. And when the wind swings around and the rain comes off the coast, I harvest it there.
Is it tarps on the ground? How do you actually collect those?
It's food-grade polyethylene.
Okay.
Yeah, 6,000 square metres of it.
And then you just funnel it into a tank?
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Pretty simple.
It is very, very simple, but the simple things work the best.
Wow.
So what I'd like to do today is show you a little bit of difference between a city and town tap water, which is quite safe to drink, of course, but how that changes between a rainwater and how it affects your palate. And that's the difference between the chemical that's been put in a tap water and how it can affect your palate.
Wow. I'm actually amazed. I really didn't expect this. Chalk and cheese, unbelievable. Yeah.
A winemaker has taken so many years, sometimes decades, to craft the aromas and the nuances in their wine. So why serve a tap water? Make sure you have something that complements that wine, like a beautiful Cape Grim rainwater.
Well, I'll know what to do next time the waiter asks for tap or bottled water. I'll be at the Cape Grim
Make sure you
station
ask
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, thanks very much for having us, Mike.
No worries at all.
Thank you very much.
Look, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much, guys, for coming up to the Northwest Coast.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wow, how amazing was that?
I can't believe there's such a difference in water.
Yeah.
I have to say I was a little bit sceptical going in.
So was
I was like, you know, It's water.
Yeah, it's water.
It's water, but
It's obviously not the case.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away by that.
And texture. Like, I never thought about water texturally, but it was like
it was soft. It was
silky.
Silky, yeah.
Incredible. Mate, we'll head back to the accommodation. I think it's time for a feed.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what you'll whip up for me, Henry.
Well, no pressure.
No pressure?
No pressure. I'm cooking for an Olympian.
The Ship Inn was built over 170 years ago by the grandfather of Prime Minister Joseph Lyons and was a pub up until closing in 1972. The premises fell into disrepair until purchased by Kerry and Alistair Houston, who have been renovating and restoring the iconic property every day since 2018. The Ship Inn features 7 beautiful storytelling suites, each of which have their own unique theme and pay homage to the different place or period in the region's fascinating history.
Hi, Kerry. How you going?
I'm well, thank you, Dion.
This is Henry.
Hello.
G'day, Kerry. Nice to meet you.
And you, welcome.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
What a beautiful hotel.
Thank you. So this is the Ship Inn
So I was a little
Stanley.
kid, but it looks like you've done quite a bit with the place.
Yes. So it was built in 1849, so it was a pub for over 170 years.
Wow.
We've been here for the last year renovating every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Oh my
But
God.
it's finished now, and we've got 7 luxury storytelling suites, all telling stories about the local region, and it's just incredible.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think I'm staying in the Cape Grim room tonight. So.
Excellent. Well, I'll
What's
let
the-
you
what's
get
the
on
story?
with cooking. This looks incredible, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Oh, thank you so much, Kerry.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kerry.
See you.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm excited.
Chuck this thing in a pot and see what happens.
See what happens.
Dinner is served.
Wow, Henry, that looks amazing.
Thank you very much.
Tell me, how did you do it?
Well, I thought it'd be really good to keep it super simple. Nothing complicated. We've got the best ingredients from the most pristine part of the world. So, crayfish, boiled for 7 minutes in some ice water. Steak, quick sear in the oven, bit of colour on the outside, salt and pepper, and a beautiful herb butter over the top, and a few greens just to keep it a bit healthy.
Wow, well, I can't wait to dig in and enjoy.
Beautiful.
Whoa,
Cheers.
cheers.
Mushrooms are one of those reliable ingredients that you can get all year round, so it's handy to have a few mushroom recipes up your sleeve. Now, one thing that's really big at the moment is miso mushrooms. So making miso butter and then cooking your mushrooms in that miso butter. A good way to get around that, if you can't get hold of miso, is with anchovies. Anchovies give that same sort of salty umami kick. So I'm going to do an anchovy buttered mushrooms. Now then, once you make the mushrooms, they're really versatile. You can put them on toast if you want to. You can put them through a pasta. You can just eat them on your own. It's completely up to you. You could put them in with some stock and blitz them and make a mushroom soup if you wanted to. First thing I need to do is just chop my mushrooms. The ones that are really big, I'm just going to chop into quarters. So any mushroom that's kind of that size, we'll just chop in half. And then as I'm chopping them, I'll just pop them into the pan. Those, yeah, we'll chop those in half as well. Mushrooms are like really big sponges, so they soak up moisture. So we want to drive some of that moisture out. By driving that moisture out, we're intensifying flavour, which is what we want. So once I've got I've got basically the bottom of my pan covered with mushrooms, just going to put a big teaspoon, probably not quite a teaspoon, a large pinch of good quality sea salt in there. So the sea salt I'm using comes from Tasman sea salt, which is, if you see over there, there's a little building. That is where the salt is processed. So they take salt or they take ocean water out of this bay, take it into that processing plant, and you end up with fantastic sea salt. Probably a decent enough coverage of mushrooms in our pan. So a good sprinkle of salt. And what this will do is it'll help to start drawing the moisture out of our mushrooms while we make our butter. Right, my butter, anchovies, depending on how much you like anchovies, will depend on how many anchovies you put with this. I've got about 10 anchovies here, so I'll split that and I'll do 5. Just want to chop them really fine, so almost you're basically mincing them. And then there are 2 things you can do. You can soften your butter and you can mash this anchovy into your butter and you'll end up with an anchovy butter. Or you can just pop it in with your butter and help it and let it cook out. And it will end up almost dissolving with the heat and turning into an anchovy butter sauce. So that's our anchovy mince. Butter, I need about 50 grams of butter. I'm using the herb and garlic butter, extra flavour, and it's flavours that go really well with mushrooms. So a couple of forks and just sort of mash everything together. Alrighty. So that, couple of the remaining pieces of anchovy is enough for what we're after. So you've got a little bowl of anchovy butter. Pop half of that into the pan now. Turn my pan on. Get cooking. And then while that's cooking away, I'm going to slice some garlic and pop that in on top as well. So a couple of cloves of thinly sliced garlic. And then there's no reason why you couldn't just throw all this, so all into a roasting pan, sort of put little dollops of butter on top, pop it into the oven and then roast it for probably half an hour to 45 minutes at 160, and you'd end up with a big tray of roasted mushrooms. But because we're outdoors, we're going for the pan sauteed mushrooms. So you can see how the amount of, looks like there's about half the amount of mushrooms in there. We're driving out lots of moisture, which means it looks like there's less mushrooms, but there's not. Same amount of mushrooms in there. We've just driven out all that moisture, and driving out that moisture increases the flavour. So now we just need to finish things off. So some fresh herbs, some chives. Just roughly pop that in. And then a squeeze, because it's so rich with all that butter, we're just going to need something to help cut through that. So a good squeeze of lemon. Turn that heat off. Good squeeze of lemon. Give that a stir, and then I'll just taste it and see if we need any extra salt. I doubt whether we're going to. Now, if you wanted to finish this off in the oven, you could and drive out more moisture and intensify flavour. Give that a taste. Doesn't need any salt. Needs a little bit more lemon though. All right, they are our anchovy mushrooms done. Now, it's completely up to you as to how inventive you are with what you do with them now. I would just eat them on their own. They're so yummy on their own as a little snack, but you could put them on some toast. You could do some pappardelle, fold everything together and make a pasta if you wanted to. Or as I said, you could pop that into a pot with some chicken stock, cook it for a little bit longer and soften those mushrooms, then blitz it with a little bit of creme fraiche and end up with a beautiful mushroom soup. That is how I would have them on their own, so full of flavour, and mushrooms are really, really good for you.